2023 was a massive year for football boots, and in today's video I want to go through all of the boot releases that I was able to try this year, go through and rank them from my first favorite all the way down to my fifth, and then a few honorable mentions as well at the end. Keep in mind for this video, all of the boots that are going to be on this list are only ones that I've actually had on feet and had for multiple sessions in a row. These are not boots that I've just reviewed and then dipped out. Let's get started with Nike. The Nike Tiempo Legend 10 Elite was not really meant for wide-footed players like normal Tiempos are, a fake leather football boot and fake Tiempo in some respects as well. Does it live up to the Tiempo name? That's up for debate. The Nike Phantom GX Elite and DF model, absolutely fantastic grip knit technology, fantastic in basically every single way except the sole plate could use a little bit more rigidity and responsiveness. The Nike Phantom Luna, a football boot whose product idea is really awesome, making a boot for women, but in my opinion, the execution was basically just a really poor version of the Nike Phantom GX. Moving on to the three stripes, let's see what Adidas brought to the table for 2023. The Adidas Copa Pure 1 and now 2 Plus and Point 1, which offer a very nice wrap around your foot, really nice leather in a market that's moving a little bit more towards synthetic, but reusing an old sole plate and potentially a little bit tasteless as far as the touch and feel goes on ball. The Adidas X Crazy Fast series, which took over from the Speed Portal. You have the laceless, the Point 1, and then you also have the Plus model, which was an excellent addition of the super fast, super lightweight model. That being said, they're a little bit uncomfortable for modern boot standards, and I just think as a synthetic model, don't really hold up to the rest of their lineup. The Adidas Predator Accuracy Point 1 and Plus models, as much as it pains me to say, they released less than a year ago, which is insane. A little bit thick for my taste, great kind of power boot as well, and really did a nice job of wrapping and molding to most foot shapes. And then the Adidas Pred Strike Elite, which is the new model of the Predator lineup. Unfortunately, a little bit less wide than what the Accuracy was, but provided a fantastic fit with the new Hybrid Touch 2.0 upper, has great grip on the ball and fit most foot types with the adaptability of that upper. Now let's dive into what Puma brought into 2023. The Puma Future Ultimate, which in my opinion is their best boot by far. It is very comfortable, nice, soft, plush materials, super easy break-in time, but really poor on durability. The Puma King Ultimate. So unless you fit in this boot absolutely perfectly, which by the way, I think the upper is a pretty decent shout at synthetic leather. If you don't fit in it and you've got wider foot types, these boots are really miserable to try and break in. They are pencil thin and I would not recommend them, but for super thin foot types, you should be just fine. The Puma Ultra Ultimate was probably the worst football boot of 2023. I'm just gonna say it out loud first. Unless you fit into these boots perfectly, I do not recommend them for anyone. Now moving on to Asics, which seems to have gotten quite a little bit of traction now that they've signed big name players like Tomiyasu at Arsenal. The two that I was able to try were the Asics DS Lite X Fly 5, which had really tasteful upgrades from the X Fly 4 series and introduced a special edition model that featured a synthetic leather upper, which is by far the best synthetic leather upper I've ever felt on my foot. These boots are absolutely fantastic all around as a really nice wrap sensation around your foot, seamless striking surface, and a really comfortable football boot all around. New Balance also brought a brand new football boot into 2023, and that is their New Balance Tekela V4 Low, the lace model of a high top football boot that was laceless and excellent as it was, and they've basically made it low cut, put laces on it, excellent responsiveness, unbelievable comfort, and one of the best knit materials on the market, bar none. Of course, we can't forget about Mizuno, who introduced the Morelia Neo Beta 4 and Neo 4, which are their speed boot category boots that were slight upgrades from the 3 series. Both of them are absolutely fantastic, featuring the most premium kangaroo leather upper, a really nice synthetic midfoot, good heel lockdown, and a slightly improved and a little bit more responsive sole plate. Now a brand that didn't even make football boots prior to 2023, and that's Skechers. The Skechers Razor is a really great crack at a first speed boot for a brand. The upper is a little too slippery for me, but I think the overall construction, the shape, and the fit of the boot is going to be suitable for most foot types and is really, really good for a first crack. The Skechers SKX, which was launched with Harry Kane, now basically take all of the best parts of the Nike Phantom GT and GT2, but make it a much better shape, much better fit, better on-ball experience as well, and frankly, a little more grip as well. We also can't forget some of the special edition launches that happened in 2023 that I got a chance to try out. First is the Lotto Stadio 50th anniversary. Absolutely oozes swagger and class. Unfortunately, most people won't wear them due to their classic fit, finish, and of course, the colorway that will wear off after time. The Adidas 11 Pro was a very cool concept of a remake. It was just a little bit disappointing in the way that they performed straight out of the box, a little bit lackluster outside of their break-in time and the comfort according to modern standards of football boots. The Adidas Predator Pred Strike 30 years. Now, I've tried both the laced and the laceless version of this football boot, this obviously being the tongued version. I've heard they're absolutely fantastic. I've heard they're also really no different from the regular laced model, despite looking a little bit different. Absolutely fantastic, lightweight, good striking surface, excellent upper, decent enough sole plate, and a fit that's going to be suitable for most people. The X99 Point Leather Speed Portal was a release from Adidas that I absolutely loved. I wore it for the first part of my season with Flower City Union, and they were excellent football boots. Excellent traction, amazing sole plate, great midfoot upper. My only complaint is the thickness and the quality of leather in the forefoot just wasn't really up to par for not only how much the boots were, but also what kind of premium release they were supposed to be. The Nike CTR 360 Maestri was also a remake that happened this year, supposedly a one-to-one, fantastic boot for nostalgia reasons, but I really didn't find them to be as excellent as I remember them being. In 2023, there were so many releases, and apart from a couple football boots, I've been very, very impressed with the boots that have come out over the course of the last year. So without further ado, let's hop into my top 5. Starting in at number 5 is the Copa Pure 2 Plus, a football boot that I was very surprised by. I'm really glad that they just decided to put laces onto the laceless construction. I think the addition of the knit material in the midfoot really adds to a very seamless sensation on feet. It's got great comfort, decent enough lockdown for a leather boot now that it does have laces, and although the touch is a little bit numb at times, I find it to be such a comfortable boot to just get in and have a no-nonsense leather football experience when either training or playing in games. Number 4 is actually a boot that didn't even make the 1-month rotation, but I did think it made the top 5 for me for boot releases, and that is the Skechers Razor. Now, the Skechers Razor has definite engineering background from the Nike brand. You see elements of Vapor 10, Vapor 15, some of the other Vapors of the past. Obviously, the sole plate is very Vapor-esque with those chevron studs, but it's an excellent first crack at a football boot. I know I said that before, but this football boot is fantastic. I think it's gonna fit most people, and that upper with the addition of the synthetic and the knit and that interesting kind of golf ball shaped texture on the forefoot is gonna suit most people and is gonna be an awesome speed boot that's a little bit different from the major 3 or 4 brands on the market. Number 3 is actually a two-way tie between boots that I think have very, very similar ideas about what updating a football boot means. And of course, I'm talking about Asics and Mizuno, who produced the Asics DS Lite X Fly 5 and the Mizuno Morelia Neo 4 Beta. Now, both shoes take their previous generations and make super incremental improvements to each little piece that kind of come together in this amalgamation of a new product that actually feels different from the old generation while keeping some of the really nice things that each of the previous generations had. Now, the Mizuno side, excellent comfort, unbelievable lockdown in the heel and the midfoot area, really nice responsive sole plate as well. And then over on the Asics side, you have probably one of the most overall comfortable football boots I've ever tried on my feet. I think they're an excellent product. I think more people need to pay attention to them because of the way that the upper with the synthetic in the midfoot, the suede heel liner, the no-nonsense sole plate that's got a little bit of rock to it to give you that kind of forward propelling momentum. I think both boots provide a very, very nice sensation on feet. They're going to be suitable for most people, although if you have wider feet, I would say go towards the Asics, and if you have medium to kind of thinner feet, I would say go towards the Mizuno. Either way, you're not going to go wrong. They're both excellent football boots, and they're easily in my top 3. The second and first choices were actually really difficult for me, as I sort of had to weigh up what things I was looking for in a football boot, as this list is completely subjective in a lot of ways, and what things I actually used during the course of the year. So number 2 spot actually goes to the New Balance Tekela V4 Low. Now, I could not be more impressed with this football boot. I think they basically took one of their most comfortable football boots to ever be created, and they listened to people like myself and people, other reviewers on YouTube, and probably pros as well, and they said, hey, we prefer actually low cut and laced models to give us that really excellent sensation on feet of lockdown, and they said, you know what, let's do it. And they basically created a low-top Magista Obra 1, which is one of the best football boots ever to be created, in my opinion. And that New Balance Tekela, along with the really cool sole plate technology with those kind of fins on the outside of that sole plate, provide a really interesting package that feels excellent on both FG and AG pitches. I've worn them on both, and the comfort you get from them is fantastic. The only caveat I would say is probably go half a size up for most people, especially if you have wider feet, but you can only find the standard fit. I actually go a 9.5 in those football boots, not too dissimilar actually from the Magista Obra 1, and go half a size up, and the fit and feel is perfect. Absolutely fantastic. You throw some grip socks on and you are off to the races. They are excellent comfort, really good durability so far, and very good overall performance. Before we get into the number 1 spot, I did want to leave some room for some honorable mentions. Now, there are 3 on my list. The first is going to go to the Skechers SKX, which I think, yes, despite there being a lot of Nike engineers now at Skechers, I think Skechers has done an absolutely fantastic job with this football boot. It is a boot that had actually made it quite a bit into my training rotation this year, those blackout prototype versions. And I found that boot to be super comfortable. They took about 3 to 4 hours of break-in time, but once that was done, it felt like the most anatomically perfectly shaped Phantom GX. So all the best features of the, or Phantom GT, excuse me. So all the features of the Phantom GT locked into a boot that had better comfort, better overall performance, in my opinion. My only gripe with that football boot, and the reason it didn't make the top 5, was because the lateral stability wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. And so unfortunately, they only make the honorable mention spot. The second pair in the honorable mention category is probably a boot that deserves to be in the top 3 if I'm honest, but it only came out a few weeks ago, and that of course is the Adidas Predator Elite FG Pred Strike, which in the laced model without the tongue is probably one of the best performing shoes of 2023. I've only had 2 sessions in them, 3 if you include the first initial try-on video. This football boot is very, very impressive, and I am super excited to see what this football boot will do in 2024, and definitely looking forward to debuting it in a game at some point, as well as it will make several debuts in training sessions as well. I think the Hybrid Touch 2.0 upper, the new sole plate with a very neutral ground, but a little bit of aggression as well, plus those strike skin elements on the inside of the upper, provide an absolutely fantastic package that's lightweight, performs well, and really does it all to a very high standard. Finally, the X99 point leather speed portal. I couldn't not put it on the list because it featured in so many training sessions and games during the course of the first part of my Flower City Union year this year, and I will say the only reason that it didn't make, as I mentioned before, is the leather in the upper wasn't as good as I think it deserved to be, and I think the transition between the synthetic in the midfoot and the leather in the forefoot just didn't give me the sensation I was looking for. It was a little too aggressive of a transition between the two materials, but overall, the package that boot has is absolutely sensational. The lockdown you get in the midfoot, the heel area is literally spotless. It is so good, and probably one of the best sole plates, in my opinion, that football boots have ever seen, and that's the Carbitex insert from the original Carbon Speed Portal series. So it creates kind of this whole mega performance football boot that kind of feels like a track spike, but with the comfort of the leather, which is absolutely fantastic. So that rounds out the 3 boots that I had on my honorable mentions list. And now to number 1, which shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, is the Phantom GX. Now I think in last year's version of this video, I actually did put the GX in there, but that's also because I had a pre-release version of that boot months before it actually came out. But because it technically released in 2023 and it was by far my most used boot of 2023, the Phantom GX easily deserves the number 1 spot. And I think the culmination of all the technology that went into that boot, the grip knit is sensational. It feels fantastic on feet. It's that perfect kind of combination of not too grippy, but grippy enough to get a good amount of swaz on the ball, a little bit of bend on the ball, a little bit of extra friction when you really need it. And that boot just holds up to all of the standards. I wore the FG model, I wore the AG model on both surfaces back and forth. I wore the AG model actually several times on regular FG surfaces, on regular grass, and then vice versa with the FG model as well. I think both of them are fantastic. I've had a couple ID pairs, I've had a couple regular release pairs, some special edition pairs. All of them have held up really well. One of the things that I'm most impressed by with the GX is how long they last. I found that my ID pair that was all black with the pink accents that I wore from most of the games this season, they lasted almost 6.5 months of consistent wear in training at least 1 time a week with them, plus it being the game boot. So very impressed with durability, and overall the GX honestly, I think takes a top 5, potentially top 10 spot of my favorite boots of all time. Again, that list is completely subjective, but I think the GX is just a really special pair of football boots, and I'm definitely going to be stockpiling a couple up so that I don't miss out in case the Phantom GX2 that's supposed to release early in Q1 of 2024 isn't as good as the original Phantom GX. So that rounds up my top 5 plus a couple honorable mentions football boots of 2023. Now I'm very curious to know what your top 5 boot releases of 2023 are. It doesn't matter if you tried them or not, just in concept, what do you prefer? Give me your top 5. I want to see conversations down in the comment section below of what you would wear and what your favorite boots from 2023 are. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I will throw up a link to my favorite Phantom GX colorway right here. And as always, be awesome, take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.